check out the Patreon and gain access to all the source code. Hey, welcome to the next video in the Paragon System tutorial series. This is part 13? Yeah, 13. So let's just head back into the programming. So here we are back at our normal load levels from database we did last time. So now what we actually want to do is that we want to create the player in the database first. So this is I would say pretty easy for us to do, luckily. And what we will just simply do is that we would go in and then make a function in our DB here, which we can call on player login. So let's do that. So here, function, create player in database, and we want to get the GUID. So we want the argument to be the GUID because we need it when we need to add the player to the database. Makes sense. So here, all we gotta do is say local again and SQL equals and quotes, and this needs to be uppercase, insert into uppercase 2, then space, and outside of double quotes 2 dots, or sorry, not outside of the double quotes yet. So still inside the double quotes after insert into space, then you wanna write the Paragon systems or system underscore player underscore data. So this is the table where we want to store the player data in. And then you make a space again inside the quotes. Then you do like this. And inside here, what you're gonna do is that here we want to write GUID because this is the row it should look for. Or this is the row, so we want to send, or this is the column where we want to put in our GUID. If we had more data that should be updated here, you would add them here with a comma, I think it is. But we'll get to looking at how that works when we need to update the player's data. So GUID here. Next, you outside of here, you make a space. Write values like this and a space again, and then we will go make another of these. Then you delete the last one of them. So then outside of the crow, so you would delete one of them, then you would write, let me see here. So you write a single quote. I think it's called a quote symbol. Then outside of the double quotes, you do ... Then you write GUID, because reason we are doing this is because the GUID here is actually the argument, and that's the player's GUID we need to add in. And then you make space again, then ... and then you do double quotes, then single quote, and then close it off like that with the close off like this. And now we have our SQL query like this. What this when we execute this query, what it does is that it inserts the player with the GUID into the table. So now let's just execute it, and since we don't need to store it, we can just say char db query, and then SQL query, and that's basically everything. So now if we take this, go down here again, because we need to share it with every other script or every other file that includes the Paragon System _db. You put it in here, set it equal to itself, basically. And now what we're gonna do is that we go in here, and then instead of adding the player for now, we just make a new line here, because I want to just show you that it will now work and we can watch in real time while it adds the player. So here you would say db functions dot and then create player in database. And as we did before, we would want the player's UID here, since that's what we need to send with it. So just write player inside here, colon, get UID low, and close it off like that. So now we are basically calling the function to get the UID low and sending it to the create player in database. So if we save everything, go in here, reload Eluna, now go in here, and then we head outside of the game, or we log out. Now we check in the database, and then we check inside our player data, and we just watch here. Right now, so if you click in here, you can click F5 to refresh. Nothing is here right now, but if we hit in game, we will see we are getting added into here. Okay, we are now in game. Let's hit F5, and boom, we are now in database. Our player is now added into the database, and as you see, since my character's UID is 3, that's what it added. And the stat here, strength stat is 0, agility 0, defense 0, 1, and level. Current XP is 0, and points is 0. Reason these are 0 is because we added them as 0 and 1 for the level. So now we actually just created the player in the in here. So let's get right into actually loading the player next. So let me see here. Let's load the player. Write function, load player from database. And again, you want to give it the UID as the argument because it needs to know which player to load. And before we do that, let's do something else that we are gonna need anyways to set up. So let's open up and set up our config file first. So open up your config. Then let's get started here. So config. And let's just make a few spaces down here. And then we say SQ, and this is just like I talked about with our other, you could say the other, like the add-on we are creating. Always great to make configs, and right now I just feel like it's probably easier to just to store all the SQL calls in here. So I will just start slowly moving everything over as we continue. So here we'll write SQL, and as I said in earlier videos, things that are static, such as fields in a config file, I would always call them in uppercase everything. It just stands out, and you know by just looking at it, oh, that's a config, it's static. So select all in order player data. Let's just call it like that. You know what? Let's just remove the all, select all underscore player data. So here we want to double quotes, select in uppercase, multiply sign or symbol, and then from Paragon System underscore, Paragon underscore system underscore player underscore data. So the table name where we store the player. where GUID equals and a space. So this is our string. So what this does is that it selects everything. So since we have the database open, I can show you better. So what it does is that it selects everything where the GUID is equals to what we give it. So for my character, let's say we have 10 characters. Everyone has 1 to 10 in GUIDs, which is normal for 10 characters. If I say I want to select number 5, it would go in here with this, and it will find the one where 5 is in the GUID. And since characters can't have the same GUID ever, it will only be able to select that, which is connected to our character. So it's equals to here. And now what we want to do is that we go back into our DB file here, and then in the load player from database, we want to actually build upon that string to select everything. So we want to again do local SQL query equals to then config file, and gotta see here. Now we need to, since we are needing the config file, we gotta do a config file equals require, and then we want to require in double quotes the Paragon System underscore config, like that. Next, we want to say config file dot, and let's see here. Oh, I again forgot it. So inside your config file, so Paragon System underscore config, at the bottom, we again need to do a return like this and say config equals config. We want to return the config table here. And go back here, dot config dot select all SQL select all player data. But as I told you before, we need to add some more to this. So what we gotta do is make a space and then 2 dots and a space again, GUID, so the GUID of the player we need to load, and then 2 dots again, and then double quotes and close it off like this. Next, you wanna say local result equals to Java DB query, and inside you just added, you use our query we just made to get the character or the player's data. Next, we wanna say if result. So if result. So if not result, so if there is no result, print player did not exist. Then what we want to do now is actually, let's move up our create character here, our create player function. What we now want to do is that we want to call the create player in database. We do like this, UID. And why we do this is, let's say a new player connects, like logs in for the first time with a new character, then it tries to load it, and the server will complain because, oh, you can't, or it won't complain because we do the error check here if it's not nothing, but it will then need to actually create the player in the database, and then we would just reload again. So what you're gonna do is that you create the player in the database, then after it's completed we do a result So we set our result up here, we set it again to be equals to the load player from database, and then we put in again the UID. This will only happen if the player isn't in the database already. And then we just do an else statement. If the player is in the database, we want to print double quotes player did exist like this, colon. And at the last thing we want to do is return result. The reason we do this is because then we return the value or the data inside of here. We return the data we have in here. Now we just did the loading of the player. So that's done now. All we gotta do now is go to our add player, uncomment it, so we have it so it shows up like this and not green anymore. Now remove the create player in database, because we don't want to create the player if they already exist. That will also give you an error. Next thing is that we want to like move this somewhere else, because we don't really want to like call it instantly. There's no reason for that. So what we would want to do is go down here and make a new function. So like we did the init or instantiate, as it's called in the longer form, inside our add-on, is because then we just have everything that needs to be loaded as soon as the server starts in a function. So we'll do the same here. So call it Paragon System loaded underscore server, just so we by a glance know this is the server. And make a comment up here just so we know what this does. Load in everything needed for the server, like this. And what you're gonna do is that you go up, you go up here and copy it or cut it with Control X and Control V down here. And then the last thing you do is that you call the function for loading everything. So now we should actually be able to end this video with testing out if it worked. So let's go in and do that. Let's first reload our Eluna, and then we leave for safety, just load it again. Now if we enter, we would see the message about the player already being in the database. So click enter, and I already see that I made a little error here. So let's see what I did wrong. So let's see here, the load player from database. Let's see, what was it, this error line, or was it this line 20? Yeah, that's the line. The DB functions, the load player from database. What did I call it? I called it load from player, yeah, and UID. We sent the UID to it. So let's see here. So we get UID low, and then we load the player. What is the problem? A nil value. So let's see here. Not that one, sorry, my bad. I'm looking at the wrong one. So let's see here. It's a nil value. So let's see here. So it's a nil. It says it's a nil value. Oh yeah, my bad. Oh my god. I can't believe I'm so dumb. But yeah, you need to again return the function. You can see that I can even do all of these errors, and what people probably would say I shouldn't be able to do a dumb mistake like this, but well, we're all human. So save it, and then we go back in game. My bad again, sorry for that. And then we go log out just to make it easier. We reload Eluna. We head in game. And boom. Player did exist. And we set player data 1. And why did that happen? Because we are printing the level of the player. So what you could actually do is that you could just say something like, let's see, what do you wanna do here? So you can say something like the points. So let's add the points to 4,000 just to give you an example. So points instead. So we load in the points now. Let's head out of the game, reload again. It's inside, and now it says 4,000 because we just updated it inside our database. That works, and now we are loading data, and now next time we'll just need to send it. But one more thing before we are done is that I want to show you that it can also now create the player for us. So if we delete this player, so right click, delete, select the row, yes. And now you can see if I click F5, the player isn't there anymore. I click enter, and oh, the player did not exist. Player did exist, and the reason that it says did not exist is because it didn't exist in the database. Player did exist is after it loaded it, after creating it. So let's hit F5 again, and you see now my player is back in the server, like my spell. So let's set it to 400. Let me log out, let me refresh or reload. And I log back in, and it's 400 now, and the player did exist. So that was everything for this video. I really hope you enjoyed and learned something. Please consider leaving a like and a subscribe. See you in the next one.